Okay, in this video, we'll show how to download Autonomy Energy and install it on a machine. So if we go to the website, we go to amber.anl.gov, and we'll go to the download site, but it's good to notice that there's an FAQ here that has information about the different packages that can be installed. Sometimes it also has common issues that people encounter when installing and how to resolve those issues. There's also installation instructions, which are also here. So there's a section for the requirements and then some other notes that are here, information about setup and first run. So it's always good to kind of look through these also. But what we'll do here is then show how to download it. So we'll go to downloads, and then I'll put in the license key that you would have been emailed. And then what we're putting in is the email associated to that license key. And then we'll click submit. And then it should download. So you can see that it's downloading here. It may not download if this URL is blocked. So in that case, you'll have to contact your IT and say, can you unblock Box? So the actual software is hosted on Box. So if there's no access to Box, you wouldn't be able to download it. Okay, now that the download has finished, we can go to downloads and you'll see the zip file. So we'll go and open the zip file and we'll extract it first into the downloads Amber 2023 folder. And then we could go to that downloads folder and we'll run the setup.exe. So then you click install. Then Amber will start. I have the key already on the clipboard because that's what I use to download it. You just click activate. And once installed, I'll go to run a vehicle. And you can see the different vehicles that are here. If I click on the first one, we can see that it loads the compact automatic gasoline. Now, a few things that could happen on installation that prevents it from starting correctly. Let me close this workflow first. But we could go through those. If you go to manage here and delete this data source, click save. What happens is if it comes up or starts up with no workflows that are defined here, what that means is that the root folder of Amber wasn't set. So you would have to go to the Amber tab and then you go to manage. And then here what you need to do is you need to go through and set the path for it. So you'd have to go and find it on your machine. Go to Amber and then 2023 and click OK. And then you have to make sure that these two checkboxes are checked. So you have to make sure that it's activated and that this other checkbox here, include subdirectories, is also checked. And then you click save. So when you do that, it will then load the workflows. So typically that's one problem that can happen is you'll start up with no workflows. Another thing that can happen is if your project, your default project or initial project, is corrupted on startup. So what I'll do is I'll just remove these other folders. So what could happen if there's some issue with the project settings, if you go to run a vehicle, you'll get different errors where it can't find the processes or the process keys. You'll also get warning messages here. So the way to correct that is basically to go to your library settings and then add the correct library. So you'd have to add the autonomy folder. You'd have to add the energy folder, and you'd have to add the process folder. So you'd add those different folders and then you would save it. And then now you could select a vehicle and you could select a cycle. So those are typical problems on installation that you have. And you could find more information about installing on the website under the FAQ. They'll have answers about versions of MATLAB that can be used with each package that's shipped with Amber and Autonomy. So there's information about those. And typically, if you have the full version of Autonomy, this table here would show that information. So for instance, 2023 U1 can be used from 2017A all the way up to 2023A. But it is version dependent, so something like Light would be used on other versions, and Autonomy Express would have its own versions. So just keep in mind, depending on which version you get, you have to make sure you're using the right version of MATLAB with it. There's also help in the application. So the other thing to note is that there's two different helps here. There's the Amber help, which just has information about the Amber framework itself. And then there's a separate help for Autonomy, which talks about vehicle modeling, processes that are associated with running a vehicle. So the procedures, 5-cycle procedure, 2-cycle procedure, BEV procedures, PHEV procedures, all that information is contained in the Autonomy documentation. That's something else to keep in mind.